In a city of wealth, ambition, and legacy, one family built an empire and destroyed itself from within. This is the story of David Adeyemi, a genius, a son, and a man who rose from ashes to empire. David was only 12 when everyone knew he was special. While other kids played football on the streets, he was solving puzzles, writing code, and dreaming of building Africa's next great tech company. His older brother Kola was 2 years older, confident, handsome, and deeply insecure. One afternoon, as David solved a complex digital puzzle on his tablet, Kola watched from across the room. Every tap of David's fingers only deepened the wound in Kola's heart. Their father clapped proudly. David, you're our brightest star. Their mother smiled gently, but her eyes turned to Kola. You'll catch up, my son. Don't let him overshadow you. That single moment planted a seed of jealousy, and in time it would grow into betrayal. Years passed. The boys became men. The Adeyemi Group, their family business, grew into one of the biggest conglomerates in the city. David, now 27, was the company's innovation engine, a quiet genius behind its most successful tech projects. He worked tirelessly, fueled by purpose and family pride. Kola, on the other hand, became more political, charming investors, whispering in boardrooms, maneuvering power. One morning, David presented a billion naira tech expansion plan that could revolutionize their company. The board applauded, cameras flashed, David smiled with pride. Then Kola stood up. Of course, he said smoothly, none of this would have happened without teamwork, especially from me. Later that week, David found something strange. The final contract. His name was gone. Kola's name had replaced it. His heart froze. What is this? He demanded. Their father frowned. You should have reviewed it earlier, David. Kola saved the deal. David felt something break inside him. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the realization that his family didn't believe him. David found comfort in Amara, a brilliant woman he loved deeply. She believed in him. She dreamed with him. Together they talked about building a company of their own, a life beyond family politics. But Kola was watching, and when jealousy meets power, destruction follows. Kola forged emails, edited documents, and created fake bank alerts that made it look like David was stealing company funds. He sent them anonymously to Amara. Days later, Amara showed up at David's office, tears in her eyes. I can't do this, David, she whispered. I can't build my future on uncertainty. She walked out, leaving David broken. He sat in silence that night, alone, betrayed, and unaware that the storm was only beginning. Months later, David closed a massive deal with an international firm, one that would take their company global. It was the proudest day of his life. But just as he was about to sign the final agreement, police burst through the doors. David Adeyemi, you're under arrest for corporate fraud and embezzlement. The room fell silent. Cameras flashed. Kola stood in the corner, pretending to be shocked, but there was a faint smirk on his face, the smile of a man watching his rival fall. David tried to speak, but no one listened. Even his father turned away. As the police dragged him out, Kola whispered, "You were born a genius, brother, but you never learned how to survive the game." Prison was hell. David spent months fighting for his sanity, praying for freedom. One night, the guards opened his cell door. Three men entered, faces he didn't recognize. They didn't speak. They just attacked. Blood stained the floor. David collapsed, gasping for air, whispering to himself, "Is this the end?" But it wasn't. Days later, he woke up in a rural clinic, rescued by strangers who found him on the edge of a riverbank. He was alive, barely. And that's where the old David died. The naive genius, the loyal son, the trusting brother. What rose from that bed was something new, something forged in pain, a phoenix ready to rise. David disappeared from public life. No one knew where he went. He lived quietly, taking small jobs, saving every naira. At night, he coded on a second-hand laptop. One evening, at a small restaurant, he met Nkechi, a woman of grace and wisdom. She didn't care about his past. She saw his potential. "You don't need their approval," she told him. "Just trust yourself." Her words became his fuel. Nights of endless coding, failed investor pitches, doors slammed in his face. Then a single yes. That yes changed everything. 5 years later, David's startup, Phoenix Global, became one of the fastest growing tech empires in Africa. He was reborn, stronger, smarter, and richer than ever. Meanwhile, back home, Kola's empire began to crumble. Bad deals, corruption scandals, investors fled. He sat in the same boardroom where he once humiliated David, this time surrounded by silence. Mr. Adeyemi's voice thundered through the boardroom, sharp enough to cut through the heavy silence hanging in the air. "Kola, this company has been sinking ever since you took over," he snapped, slamming a file on the table. "Profits are down, partners are withdrawing, and your decisions, every single one, has dragged us backward." The executives sitting around the table stiffened, staring down at their notepads, avoiding eye contact. No one dared speak. Kola swallowed hard, trying to keep his composure, but his father wasn't done. "If David were alive," Mr. Adeyemi continued, his tone shifting into one laced with bitterness and disappointment, "this company would have reached heights I only dreamed of. Your brother understood leadership, vision, responsibility. But look at what you've turned my legacy into." The words hit Kola like stones. David, always David. Even in death, his father still held up the ghost of his brother as the golden standard, the hero, the prodigy, the true heir who never got the chance to lead because prison took his life too soon. Kola's jaw tightened. His fingers dug into the edge of the table. His heartbeat hammered in his ears. He had spent years trying to earn his father's approval, years taking brutal criticisms silently, years pretending that the comparison didn't tear him apart inside. But today, something cracked. He felt a burning rise from deep within, anger mixed with pain, humiliation, and decades of resentment. He stood up slowly, his voice trembling not with fear, but with suppressed fury. Do you think I wanted David to die? Kola said, his eyes locked on his father. Do you think I haven't lived every day of my life under his shadow? You never gave me a chance to be seen, not once. Even now, you still call his name before mine. Mr. Adeyemi stared at him, shocked that Kola dared to talk back. For once, Kola continued, stepping closer. Why can't you see me? Why can't you see the son who stayed, the son who tried, the son who has been breaking himself just to make you proud? His voice cracked on the last words. But Mr. Adeyemi only sighed, cold, dismissive. Trying isn't enough, he said flatly. Leadership demands results. David had results. You have excuses. The room fell into a suffocating silence, and in that moment, Kola felt something inside him finally die. Not hope, not ambition, but whatever fragile bond he still had with his father. He realized he would never be enough for the man who created him. Without a word, Kola gathered his files, closed his laptop, and walked out of the boardroom. His footsteps echoed through the hallway, each step heavier than the last. As he reached the exit, he whispered to himself, if he wants David, then he will see what happens when he loses me too. His anger twisted into something darker, determination, bitterness, a desire for revenge, not against David, but against the father who never chose him. And as Kola pushed open the doors and stepped outside, he didn't know that his next decisions would not only change the company, but would ignite a chain of events that could destroy the entire Adeyemi legacy. As Mr. Adeyemi scrambled to stabilize the company, his every decision was met with resistance. The board members, once loyal to the Adeyemi name, were now quietly selling their shares to Phoenix Global, David's legacy, the company Bayo had founded from nothing, now owning stakes in the very business that had once been a beacon of power. Kola, in his cold detachment, rarely visited the office anymore. When he did, it was never to help. He was no longer interested in keeping the family's empire intact. Instead, he used the office as his personal battleground, a place where he could taunt his father in the most subtle yet cutting ways. Maybe you should retire, father, Kola would say, his voice coated with sarcasm. You've done enough damage. Let the younger generation take the reins. Mr. Adeyemi would stare at him, unable to speak. The words he needed to say were trapped in his chest, choking on pride, on regret, on sorrow. His son, his own flesh and blood, had become a stranger. His arrogance now shaped every interaction, every decision. But behind Kola's smug demeanor, something darker lurked. As the months passed, the weight of the situation began to suffocate Mr. Adeyemi. Every day felt like a losing battle. The company's decline mirrored the deterioration of his own health. Stress, sleepless nights, and the constant pressure of holding the empire together was beginning to take its toll. As the months passed, the weight of the situation began to suffocate Mr. Adeyemi. Every day felt like a losing battle. The company's decline mirrored the deterioration of his own health. Stress, sleepless nights, and the constant pressure of holding the empire together was beginning to take its toll. He couldn't sleep anymore. His chest tightened with every passing day, his vision blurred at times, and his hands shook uncontrollably. His doctor warned him several times, but Mr. Adeyemi dismissed it, too proud to admit that the loss of his legacy might also be the death of him. At night, when the office was empty and the lights dimmed, Mr. Adeyemi sat alone in his chair, staring at his son's picture on the desk, David's smiling face frozen in time. The photo was a painful reminder of everything he had lost. He had lost David to the prison system, a miscarriage of justice, a life cut short. He had lost Kola to pride, to jealousy, to betrayal. The boy who once worshipped him now taunted him, mocking him for his failures. The loss of his sons weighed more heavily than any business deal ever could. And now, as his health deteriorated, Mr. Adeyemi was left with the haunting realization that he might never see his empire restored. But still, every morning he fought to hold on. His fragile body refused to let go. He walked through his pain, pushing himself harder, hoping that somehow the world would return to the way it was before, when his family had been united, when his business had been invincible. Yet every morning, Kola would come to the office, offering nothing but mockery. He no longer hid his disdain for his father's attempts to salvage the company. Instead, he made it known that he was watching his father crumble, savoring each failure like a cruel victory. "You're weak, father," Kola would say with an almost sadistic pleasure. "I've been the one holding everything together these days, haven't I? Without me, this place would have fallen apart long ago." Kola knew exactly how to push his father's buttons, and it worked every time. Mr. Adeyemi's fists clenched in frustration, but his body was failing him. No longer able to summon the strength to respond, his eyes, once sharp and commanding, had grown weary, as if the weight of the years and his own failures had been too much to bear. But one day, a breaking point was reached. Mr. Adeyemi's doctor warned him once more that his condition was critical. "You need to slow down. Your body is sending you signals that it's time to rest." "Rest?" Mr. Adeyemi scoffed. How could he rest when his world was falling apart? But when he tried to return to the office the next day, his body failed him. His vision blurred, his chest tightened painfully, and he collapsed in his office, just like his son David had once fallen, caught in a system that refused to protect him. The weight of his empire and the betrayal of his family had pushed him too far. Meanwhile, Phoenix Global's rise back at Phoenix Global, David and Ankechi watched from afar as the cracks in the Adeyemi group widened. With each acquisition and every new partner they gained, their influence over the Adeyemi family business grew. David had once been the victim, falsely accused, betrayed, and abandoned. But now He was the one who controlled the narrative. As he sat in the sleek modern conference room of Phoenix Global, looking out over Lagos, his mind wasn't focused on the riches they had amassed, but on the future of his own family. Nkechi, ever by his side, saw the same determination in David's eyes. The pain of the past still lived there, but it no longer defined him. Was David a new man now? One who had built an empire on resilience and love, not on the fear of losing everything. We have to stay focused on our mission, Nkechi said one evening, glancing at their daughter playing nearby. There's still work to do. David nodded, his thoughts shifting to the battles still ahead. He had already won many fights, but this one, facing down the old Adeyemi Empire, would be the final test. As Kola watched his father's decline, he could sense the inevitable collapse of the Adeyemi legacy, and for the first time, a flicker of doubt crossed his mind. Could he actually lose everything he had worked for? Despite his arrogance, Kola had no idea what to do next. His father was slipping away, and with his health deteriorating, the company had only one option. Either Kola would have to find a way to keep the Adeyemi name alive, or Phoenix Global would come in and claim the rest of it. It wasn't long before Kola made a decision. He would take a bold step, not to repair the company, but to solidify his own power. He would make the final play to take down David, knowing that only then could he reclaim control of his family's name and legacy. But Cole would soon realize that no matter how many moves he made, there was one thing he could never control: the truth. And the truth about David's death, about the betrayal and the lies, would soon resurface, threatening to destroy him once and for all. In the coming weeks, Mr. Adeyemi's condition worsened, yet he remained in his office, refusing to surrender to illness. He clung to the hope that he could, in his final days, see his family restored. But that hope faded when Kole showed up one morning with an announcement that would change everything. The board had decided to remove Mr. Adeyemi from his position, citing his health as a concern. His legacy, already damaged, was now being taken from him piece by piece. And just like that, the Adeyemi empire, his empire, slipped through his fingers. But even in the face of defeat, Mr. Adeyemi's voice rang clear. "You will never take my legacy," he said with quiet conviction. Kola stared at his father, unsure of what to say. The weight of all he had done, of everything he had lost, now hung heavily between them. Little did he know, Phoenix Global had quietly begun acquiring the Adeyemi Group's failing assets one by one. When he finally discovered the truth, it was too late. David now owned everything. He was no longer the boy they buried alive. He was the man writing their fate. Rumors spread that David was alive. The family requested a meeting. The doors of Phoenix Global opened. David walked in, sharp suit, calm eyes. His mother gasped, "David, you're alive?" His father broke down. "My son, we wronged you." Kola smiled faintly, trying to regain control. "Brother, let's rebuild together. Blood is blood." David stared coldly. "Blood? You drained mine dry. You buried me alive. For profit." The room went silent. David turned to the screen behind him. With a single tap, files filled the room. Evidence of fraud, bribery, and lies. Emails, voice recordings, financial trails, every sin Kola ever committed, all documented. Board members murmured in shock. Police entered moments later. Kola froze as handcuffs locked around his wrists. David walked up to him and whispered, "Let the truth speak louder than your lies." Kola was led away, the empire he stole now slipping from his grasp. David stood before the shining tower that bore his company's name. Beside him, Nkechi held his hand. He took a deep breath. For the first time in years, free. I died once as a victim. I was reborn a man who owned his story. Revenge built my empire. But peace keeps it standing. From ashes to empire, from betrayal to rebirth. David Adeyemi didn't just survive, he became the lesson the world would never forget.